As a first-year optometry student at Midwestern University, there's a ton that I did not know coming in. I didn't know how fun it would be. I didn't know how it would feel to finally become a doctor. But there's so much in the first year that they just don't tell you about how hard it's going to be and the difficulties that you'll face. So let's go ahead and look into the dark side of optometry school. So what are the darker sides of optometry school? Well, these are 5 of the hardest things about my first year so far, and we haven't even breached the surface yet. So number 1 is I wish I could have internalized how strict and hard the schedule was going to be. You can kind of see the curriculum and the credits you'll take, and you know it's going to be a lot more than undergrad. You really underestimate how difficult the schedule is going to be to pull off. You look at, on a piece of paper, you have an exam at 7 a.m. And that looks fine, and you think, oh yeah, I'll just set my alarm. But when the alarm goes off, for example, at my optometry school, we have an exam every Tuesday morning at 7 for the first 3 quarters. And it is so hard to get out of bed. And that schedule is just so hard to keep up sometimes. And you see that class will end at 2 or 3, sometimes 4. And you think, oh wow, so I'll just have the rest of the day. But the amount of studying that it takes, you are going to be on campus a lot longer than that. And so it's sometimes more than even a 9-to-5 job would be, is going to optometry school. So one of the hardest parts about it is that strict schedule, and you really have to stay on top of it or else it'll go downhill fast. And that brings me to my second hardest part about optometry school so far, and that is the high stakes. If you mess up a little bit, you've already invested so much into it that you really need to make sure you're on track. If you have a bad day, it'll kind of turn into a bad week and can turn into a bad quarter, a bad semester. And that could really inhibit your chances of becoming a doctor. Now, everything's not lost if you fail a quarter or fail a semester or fail a class. Worst comes to worst, you repeat a year. And that is not that bad in comparison to things. You'll still become an optometrist. You might lose tuition or gain money on your debt. You might, lose a lot of money. But ultimately, you really need to be committed because it is high stakes. You need to know you want to be a doctor and that you're going to fight through and persist through the hard classes, the hard schedule, and make it through the whole process and become a doctor at the end. And so you really need to have that commitment, and that's really one thing they're looking for in interviews, is to see who has the commitment that'll be able to make it all the way through optometry school. The third hard thing, the dark side of optometry school, is learning how to learn. You get thrown into some of these classes, and I'm going to be honest, not every professor is going to be a great teacher. I know that in undergrad, you have these people who teach full-time, professors. I thought, oh, they're all going to be great, because I had some really, really great ones. But then when you had some not so great ones, it's fine, and it's not that hard of a class. But here, every class is hard, and some teachers aren't going to teach the way that you learn. And that will be really hard when it comes. You'll have some classes where it might be easier for you to just skip and learn on your own. But if that's what it takes for you to pass that class, then you have to take every measure to do it. Now, you still need to be connected and talk with the professor because they're writing the exams, and you need to know how they think. But really, it's going to be pretty hard when you're met with those classes that you just can't get the grasp on quite. Where you really don't know how the professor's thinking, you're not sure why they teach a certain way, and it really just leaves you lost and behind. But the best part about that is that they know that each optometry school knows that. They have academic deans that are in charge of that, and they have tutors available, office hours available, and resources available for you to be able to get through those times where learning is very difficult. And everyone's going to have those times. I've met with tutors plenty of times, but you'll get through it, and that's the third scariest part. Now, number 4 is the pace. In undergrad, I was used to having hard classes, but they weren't fast. In optometry school, you're going to have hard classes and fast classes, and most of the time they're the same class. You're going to have classes that go so fast, so fast. You blink and you know so much. And how else can it be if you're going to be a doctor, right? At the end of 3 years, you're going to take a boards exam. You're going to need to know everything that a doctor needs to know in that time. You're going to have to stair-step your way. You're going to be running most of the time in optometry school. It's going to be a fast pace, but you're going to need to internalize that before you come in, because it'll be really hard to hit the ground running if you're not prepared. So that's one thing I really wish I would have known, is just how fast-paced it is. It's not going to be necessarily the hardest classes you've ever had in your life, but there will be, well, you will have some of the hardest classes you've ever taken, and they will be fast-paced. So bring yourself up, be ready for that pace, and be ready to stick to that schedule. That'll help you keep that pace. Now, the last thing that's the darkest side of optometry school is that imposter syndrome that you get. The whole purpose of optometry school is to get you to become a doctor, and you're going to be a doctor at the end of it. And I don't think that ever quite hit me in applying and having it as my goal. Interviewing, I never quite knew or internalized that I was going to be a doctor. And I think most people throughout optometry school don't have that internalized still. There's a very, very deep sense of, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I am the odd one out here. You have such a bad imposter syndrome trying to become a doctor. I know most other professions deal with this too. You just don't feel like a doctor. I still feel like a 12-year-old kid sometimes. And really, it's really hard to learn all these things and really feel yourself becoming a doctor, but you still just don't feel like it. And it is crazy sometimes to just kind of stop and realize, wow, this is what I know. I know a ton of information. All right, I can do a ton of things. I'm already this far into being an optometrist, and that's just amazing to see. And so, although the imposter syndrome is real and it kind of haunts at you, especially in your first year, you think, well, I'm doing all these crazy things already. I'm checking someone's blood pressure. I'm learning all of these diseases and drug names and everything, but you got to start somewhere. And those feelings of inadequacy, they don't go away, but your capacity increases so much, and you really are becoming a doctor, and that's honestly my favorite part. So thank you for watching all the way till the end. I hope you know that optometry school is not all dark. Those are only just a few of the bad parts about it, but the good honestly outweighs all of the bad. So I'll go ahead and link a video of the 5 best parts about optometry school that I'll be making soon, and we'll see you later.